So yeah, man, my review is going to be an interesting review because I'm going to jump to the stuff that I cared about the most first, and then maybe I'll circle back to the other stuff. But be transparent. I didn't get a chance to see the first two matches because I was out doing adult things before I was able to get back to the house. That being said, I'm going to jump into when I thought, things started to heat up pretty much for the pay-per-view for me. So it started to heat up right in the middle of the card with, Josh Alexander and Simon Gotch. So if you're really into the grappling, physicality kind of style of wrestling, which you normally get with Josh Alexander matches, this is exactly what you got in this match. Simon Gotch. You know what's so funny, and I don't know if this has been said before, but I'm not saying he is the same or they're the same. I'm going to compare these two because they just remind me of each other. And Simon Gotch kind of reminds me of Bryan Danielson. Just the way his build is. They have similar body types. They're very, they love that grappling style of wrestling. I see some Bryan Danielson in him. So that's all I thought about as he was wrestling Josh Alexander. So those two guys put on a pretty good match. I mean, there wasn't any botches. It was just really clean, physical wrestling, and everybody got their spots in, and Josh Alexander came on top. Of course, he should come up on top, being that, he just beat Will Ospreay. You cannot have him lose to Simon Gotch, no matter if it's his, debut match or whatnot. But I was surprised that to follow that match, they went ahead to the World Championship match. That surprised me. I didn't expect to see Moose and Alex Shelley until maybe later in the card. So that surprised me. So right after that match, you got Alex Shelley versus Moose, and it was in a first ever No Surrender match. So I guess, the object is the only way you can beat your opponent is if the opponent's person in the corner that they bring in the corner throws in the towel. They had this matchup. It was just a no disqualification. Just a bunch, it's TNA, so it's going to be a bunch of spots. Moose was able to get brass knuckles. I will say this: I'm going to follow my board. I wrote this on the board. I wrote a few things on the board, by the way, and I'm going to get to it right now. Number one, Moose is legit. I haven't seen a lot of Moose matches, full disclosure, and I'm trying to get into TNA a little bit more. But Moose is legit. And it's not because of the obvious things as far as his physical gifts and his stature and all these things. What impresses me the most about Moose is that he's a 6'5", 250, 60-pound guy who can sell like he's a 5'10", 200-pound guy. He's very good at selling. That guy is classic at the selling. I was impressed by it because he's a big dude. He doesn't have to really sell. Most guys in this business now they don't really sell, and I don't like that. Perfect example, and I wrote this on the board. Alex Shelley sucks at selling. Now here's the counter to what I just said with Moose and how great he is at selling. When Alex Shelley started working on Moose's leg, he sold that leg injury through the entire match. Even when he was doing spears, he was selling the leg injury. Whereas Alex Shelley gets his hand, quote unquote, bashed 3 times by big old Moose, and he sold that injury for about 3 minutes. And next thing you know, he was putting them in moves, holding the Kindle stick with both hands, and we off to the races. And I just said to myself, oh my God, you suck at selling. But that's what I wrote on the board. I think Alex Shelley could have did a lot better representation for Moose, because it's a respect thing too, man. Moose out here selling like a champ. And he's 6'5". He could destroy Alex Shelley probably in real life. And he was selling everything that Shelley was doing to him. And I just wish that Shelley would have just put a little bit more effort into selling for him. Moose is the world champion, for God's sakes. But anyway, So Moose, through a lot of different stuff that happened, Kushida was in the corner of Alex Shelley. He ended up throwing the towel in. Moose was spearing Shelley repeatedly with a chain wrapped around him, which was a cool visual because, Moose is just so physically intimidating and he's just so impressive looking, He kind of reminds me of a more talented Titus O'Neil. Think about it. Titus O'Neil. They have like similar body types. Titus O'Neil is not nowhere near in Moose's league as far as a performer. So those two kind of remind me of each other, which is funny. But yeah, so Moose wins, which was the right decision. He goes on to face Eric Young, who beat Frankie Kazarian, to open the show. Again, a match I just honestly didn't care about. But now, to follow that, which surprised me as well, you got the Knockouts Championship match, which was Jordynne Grace versus Giselle Shaw. So she was the number one contender. They had a decent match. Jordynne, first of all, another thing I wrote on the board, when Giselle Shaw came out to open the match, she got a mid reaction. It was mid. Like, almost no reaction, to the point where when she was walking to the ring, she had to like kind of hype the crowd up, like, hey, I'm out here, you know what I mean? Like, it was that bad, and I kind of felt bad for her. But Jordynne Grace, that's another thing I wrote on the board. She's a star. Jordynne Grace is a star. Like Moose, Jordynne Grace is another great star, another great representation of the company, like your pillars. Like, if you want to say, yo, this is TNA, it's Jordynne Grace and it's Moose. What a perfect duel as far as representation for your company, as far as taking it seriously. I think she's just great. She carried the match, of course. She did an excellent spot with Giselle Shaw outside the ring when Giselle hit a Spanish fly on her. She took that bump. That was an awesome spot. And I didn't say this, I'm sorry. Ash by Essence came out to the ring, which is formerly Dana Brooke of WWE. She came out to the ring to watch the match, to add some drama to it, because of course she's going to be probably the next in line. I seen her wrestle last week on Impact, and when she made her debut for TNA as this character, Ash for Elegance or whatever. I think it's interesting. I think she looked pretty good in the ring as well. I loved how she looked in the ring against the jobber that she fought. But, she was sitting by the ring to watch the match. And, of course, eventually Jordynne Grace wins. She has a really cool finisher, man. She's like so compact, but she's just so powerful. She can really legitimately probably do that finisher on any woman wrestler. Maybe if they're not too ridiculously tall, because she's still short, but her name, the Juggernaut, definitely fits. But yeah, Jordynne Grace wins. Of course, she was going to win. That's the right thing to do. And so now to end the night, they ended the night with the X Division Championship match with Mustafa Ali versus the champion, Chris Sabin. Now, I was kind of surprised that this was the headline show, but as I thought about it, I was like, well, this is like Ali's debut in TNA. Now, I'm not sure if he's exclusively signed in TNA. Of course, he's going to be able to do matches outside of TNA, but I have to get some clarity on that because I don't know, to be honest. But these two had a great match. I expected them to have a good match, and they delivered, And when you watch Ali wrestle and how he sells, again, I go back to how Moose sells. One of the things I love about wrestlers and the technique of it is how you sell as well. That's how Shawn Michaels was so great. Shawn Michaels was an all-time great seller as far as punishment is concerned, and just selling it to the crowd and making it believable. That's the whole purpose of this, is making it believable. And a lot of guys just don't do that. And Mustafa Ali is one of those guys that kind of understands the essence of it as well. You got to make your opponent look just as good as you. That's how this thing works, It's a union. So yeah, him and Chris Sabin, they put on a great show. I thought it was a little overbooked. You know, TNA can't help themselves because TNA does overbook some of their main events. You know, they had the good hands come down, and then they had a spot with Ali security, and it was just a lot of different stuff going on, of course. I will say this, the crowd was behind Ali to the point, and he's supposed to be the heel, and they were behind him to the point where, I mean, Sabin was the heel in certain spots, you know, and the right decision, of course, was to put Ali over. Ali is the headliner of that show, and he had to walk away with that belt at the end of the night, and that's what happened. You know, he did his move. Sabin took a nasty spill when he hit his head on that reverse. They did some spot where, you know, it was a reverse, and Ali went underneath him and did like a power bomb, and then he kind of had like a whiplash thing on Sabin. But after that, jumped up, did 450 splash, boom, pinned him, and it was over. So Mustafa Ali is your new X Division champion. Moose retained his title, and Jordan Grace retained her title. So, and you had a couple title changes with the Knockouts Tag Championships was changed over. Again, one of the matches, didn't really care about. And you had the tag team champions of Ace Austin and Chris B. They retained the titles as well. So, all in all, man, I'm gonna say this: I was really pleasantly surprised. Not really surprised, but I was like almost proud. Like, okay, I had expectations that this would be a solid show because the card said it would be, or said it should be, and it delivered. It delivered. Well, oh, by the way, I got to shout out West Side Gun. West Side Gun was out in the crowd. I mean, yo, he really loved wrestling, and I love the fact that he can live these different lives, different lives as a fashion god, as a rap god, and as a wrestling god. You know what I'm saying? So, yo, I would do the same shit if I was him too, man. Just live in all these different worlds and have fun with it. So, West Side Gun was there watching the show as well. So that definitely helping out the profile of TNA. Can't be a bad thing. So, all in all, man, I give it. It was a pretty solid show. I'm gonna keep watching TNA weekly, watch Impact to see how they follow up, and then I think their next special event is Sacrifice or No Sacrifice. No, I think it's just Sacrifice, and I'll be definitely glued to see what happens with that, and I want to see what happens with Nick Nemeth now that he's like the new global champion from over there in New Japan, and see how that happens. Will he show the belt on TV, on TNA TV? That'll be an interesting thing to look for as well. So keep it locked, man. More to come on this channel. Follow and hit the subscription below for other things to support this channel, as far as my affiliates and as far as the store. Hey, if you like what you see in the back, right here, right behind me, the shelf, check out the store. That's all I got to say about that.